Login accepted.
Beginners at Pomona to kind of gain experience, and you get to travel around, compete against other colleges. The tryouts will consist of two parts, which is setting up Linux services. This was covered in the last week, and solving CTF challenges, which is covered in this week's meeting. And the briefing packet has already been released, so if you're interested, make sure to check that out. It covers whatever you need, everything you need to do for the tryouts and the competition. Additionally, we will be having our search and deploy competition is going to be held in-house. So it'll be held by Swift, and it's groups of four, up to 4 teams will be competing in a hardening and forensics-based competition. Signups are closing soon, so make sure to sign up for that if you're interested. Additionally, we have NCL. This is going to be it's actually a CTF competition. So if you find this meeting interesting at all, make sure to sign up for it. And if you go through our QR code, we might be able to get you free entry into it. Otherwise, it'll be around, I think, $30. And so getting into our meeting, we're going to be covering just a general description of CTFs, what they are, what categories you can expect to find on them, and kind of what each category is. Then we'll be walking you through the theory, how to approach some of these categories, and some example questions on that. And we'll finish off with a hands-on CTF that we've made. And that'll be just for you guys to get practical experience with whatever you've learned today. The CTF will be opened today, and it will continue all the way to Friday. And the first 3 places will get prizes. So getting into it, just a general description of what CTFs are. CTFs are a collection of different questions that are related to cybersecurity, and they cover a lot of different categories. They have multiple formats. However, the most common one, and the one that we'll be talking about today, is considered the Jeopardy style. This is going to be like what you see on the screen, where you have different questions that are tied to different points. You'll click them and try and answer them, and it's kind of that like Jeopardy style. These questions each tend to require a very creative approach because they need to be different from one to another. So like CTFs will generally, you'll have like an encryption algorithm, but then in maybe the next CTF, like from CTF to CTF, they'll change one thing about it, or you'll have to do something differently. So you always have to be considering a different approach, and it's really emphasizing that creative knowledge. And additionally, CTFs are honestly one of the best places to start if you're interested in cybersecurity at all. It is great. It is hard for beginners, but it builds so many like base skills that really help you like build off of and flourish in the cybersecurity environment. Additionally, we can't talk about CTFs without talking about leaderboards. It's the competitive nature of CTFs is kind of built in. It's kind of essential to the environment. And each question of a CTF is going to be worth a different amount of points. It'll be that the easier CTFs are going to be worth less, and the harder it is, the more it's going to be worth. And then at the end, you'll have just a gathered total amount, and whoever has the most points combined will win the prize or win a placement. And like I said, there will be prizes for this CTF. I'll talk more about that at the end. But yeah. And so getting into just the overview, what categories can you expect to see on a CTF? These are going to include cryptography, which is going to be the encryption, how you protect data and prevent unauthorized people from seeing your data. Then you have OSINT. This is the searching of open source knowledge and intelligence. So anything that is out there on the internet, out there in public, you have to find. It's typically not as easy as it sounds because you would assume that it's just Googling, but there's a bit more nuance to that. And then we have forensics. The forensics will be kind of breaking into or like finding hidden like resources or data in different like technology, like phones, like computers. Network analysis is kind of like inspecting the traffic, the web traffic, or any internet traffic that goes on. And you can often find hidden data that shouldn't be in there, like maybe passwords or other sensitive information. And that is what the CTF challenge revolves around of. These first four are going to be the ones that we'll cover because they're the most beginner friendly. However, there is some more ones here with web exploitation, binary exploitation, and reverse engineering. These generally require a better knowledge of the code itself and being able to understand like a given snippet and like basically reverse it, understand it, or like break into it. So the first category we'll be talking about is cryptography. Like I mentioned, cryptography is the method of using mathematical encryption schemes to prevent unauthorized third parties from accessing that data. And there is tons of different ciphers, encryption methods that exist out there. However, um, and that kind of leads to a very big variety in challenges. And additionally, when you combine that with the fact that some of the CTF makers often will take an encryption method and then change it a little bit, it really emphasizes this a lot of different possibilities that you'll have to go through and figure out. In this presentation, I'll be walking you through the shift cipher, which is one of the easiest and most common first ciphers to learn, but I'll also be trying to explain the methodology of how you would want to approach a CTF problem, especially if you've never seen the cipher before or you don't understand the encryption algorithm. And before I move on, I also put a link up here if you're interested in um, cryptography. If this like CTF gets you interested, you can check out Crypto Hack. They're basically a CTF platform, but they only do cryptography challenges, and they also provide lessons on top of that. So, how would you approach a cryptography question? Uh, like, like when you're gonna be given a question, you'll kind of just get like a jumble of text, and you might be like, what am I supposed to do with this? Um, and so it can often lead to just being overwhelmed at first. But I provided a kind of first steps here that you would want to go for. In the case that you're given a string, you'd really just be looking for patterns, anything like if it's English, if it's just English letters, if there's numbers, how long your encryption is there multiple strings, like maybe you're given a key on top of your encryption. If there's only, let's say, like two characters, like zeros and ones, then we can kind of narrow it down to like either binary or Morse code. And also, in a lot of these CTF challenges, either the name or the description of that challenge is kind of it often hints towards what you're supposed to be doing. So kind of take that in consideration. Um, I also put on this right side here kind of the like what you can kind of expect if you're given certain patterns. These are not guaranteed, but like I said, if you have like zeros and ones, that's going to lead into like a binary or Morse code because you're only going to have 2 digits with that. Additionally, if you're given like 3-digit groups, it's going to be octal, or 4-digit groups is often going to be hex. If your base 64 is like, if we have multiples of 4, if the overall length is a multiple of 4, and we have like a 50% upper and lower case along with numbers, it'll probably be that. And also with ciphers, like if we're given only letters, there's a possibility, and you should always check for if it's like a shift or substitution cipher, because often these encryptions will give you like really random characters, and if it's just letters, then you can kind of narrow it down a bit. Um, like I meant also with, you don't have to like memorize every single encryption algorithm. There is like identifiers out there. These don't work the best, but they can kind of clue you into what should I be looking at, and it can kind of help you guide. And like I have on the right here, I put in like this encryption, and it gave me out like a bunch of different possible encryptions. This one, it isn't always the first one, because this encryption was actually the Venere cipher, and but I provided a couple of the identifiers I use. I use the first one the most, but they're all very good. I wouldn't rely on them, but they should be your first point of like contact. Additionally, cryptography is not all just text. They often go into audio files and image files. Um, Audio cryptography, kind of, you'll most likely have to open in an audio editor. Sometimes you'll be able to just listen to it, and maybe they're speaking in like a code or like some sort of like message that you can decrypt. But often, like they might hide it in the waves or the spectrogram of that audio file. And also, it could have been tampered with, so that you'll have to repair that audio file to actually hear what they're trying to say. And I provided Audacity, or there's a lot of online like audio editors that you can use out there. Additionally, we have image cryptography, which is going to require you to open it in a editing software as well. Something like GIMP is really good because you can mess around with different like levels that basically you mess around with a bunch of different settings until you can try and reveal something, like maybe reveal through like black text, like a blackout box. And there's been also ones that you'll have to layer multiple images on top of each other in order to see something that wasn't there previously. And so getting into our example question, this is generally very easy because it's just a shift cipher, but to kind of walk you through the steps that you would take, given this string, we can recognize that it is just ASCII text and it is just English characters there. So the first thing that you should probably try, because it's easy, is just a shift cipher. But it could also be substitution. It can also be a lot of different other ciphers, but taking the easy ones first should always be your go-to. If we plug it into a tool called CyberShift, which allows us to, it's basically kind of like a website that has a bunch of different decryption algorithms and encryption algorithms. And so if we plug in ROT13, which is a shift cipher, we can mess around with the amount of numbers that we're shifting by until we get a decrypted text. And in this case, that was 12. So as you can see, if we put our encryption text in the top and rotate it by 12 characters, it outputs the flag that we want. And to explain what the shift cipher is, it basically just shifts the letter that you have across like every letter in your string, that amount of letters in the alphabet. And so done with cryptography. After cryptography, the OSINT is another big like category that people like to do, and it's also probably one of the first ones that you'll experience in CTFs. OSINT can be boiled down to just looking up on Google, but it is a lot more than that, and you'll likely have to use specialized tools to find what you're looking for. But in general, it is just trying to access publicly accessible data from a bunch of different websites. And this information, as listed, can often be looking at social media, random websites, databases and registries, and code repositories like on GitHub can often be a source um, of research. And some of the OSINT tools that we mentioned here, we have the TinyEye, that's a reverse image searching tool. WebArchive is going to be a search engine that can search for deleted websites in the past. URL scan will be able to scan a URL for its information and kind of like what data the host may have. And we have stuff like the DNS dumper and Google Dorks that like Google Dorks is just looking up on Google, but in a special way. And getting into how would you even approach a OSINT problem? It's kind of obvious, but the first thing you'd want to do is just look something up on Google. Um, However, most likely when you look up whatever you're given, you're just not going to find anything because it wouldn't be a challenge then. So if you're looking up on Google, there's definitely a lot of things that you should consider. If you have an image, you can try reverse image searching, but do be warned that like kind of like with looking up different text, if you're trying to reverse image search something, you might need to play around with like what part of that image that you're looking up. So you can kind of shrink and like maybe I only want to look up like the top right of an image, then I can do that. And like if I'm trying to only find that statue, maybe. If we have the coordinates of something, we can look up where the coordinates are and often look around like, is there any cities nearby? Is there any parks? What kind of like streets, like names are there? Because those will often clue you into maybe another step in your in that question, or just give you like, or if it's an easy CTF, it might just give you like the answer straight up on those coordinates. If you have names, and you obviously want to be looking at social media accounts and articles or blogs that are posted. CTF will often like make their own blogs, make their own social media accounts that you have to kind of track through, and they'll be linking to each other. So I'd really recommend just like you want to look at everything. You want to look at who those users are following, who's commenting on these like social media posts, and maybe like what links they're posting. Sometimes if like there's a video that's been posted out there, you can kind of scan through the everything on the text. Maybe if they have like extra tabs, you'll want to look into like what tabs do they have open, like what's in their tabs search bars. Um, and then if we have logs, like maybe there's been CTF challenges I've done with plane logs, and then you have to look up like a flight database and be able to track like where this one person went across these different flights. And lastly, we also have the Wayback Machine, or as I mentioned before, the Web Archive. They pretty much do the same thing, but we're going to be looking for like maybe websites or PDFs that have been removed in the past. This is pretty common for like malware to be just like any like malware reports can often just be taken off the internet, or also just like different government stuff. So CTFs love to use this. I'd always recommend looking on Wayback if you can't find something on Google first. And like I said on the right side here, it's pretty much you're not going to find whatever you're looking for immediately. But given enough time and given enough kind of like searching, you will find it is out there. And there's probably like a website that exists for your exact purpose. Like the flight database is kind of there specifically for like these flight lookups. And um, it's oftentimes just being able to find these resources, being able to find these tools to use for your challenge. There's a lot of collections out there on GitHub of like different OSINT tools to use, but also if you continue in the CTF like journey, you'll end up just collecting a lot of different tools from different challenges and different solutions that you struggle with. And I'd recommend just keeping those in a notes folder to always refer back to. Additionally, I didn't mention it here, but like with Google and Google Dork specifically, you can like mess around with searching up. One of my favorites is just like exact text. If you put it in quotes, if you put whatever you're searching up in quotes, it'll give you the exact text like search. And that can often be very helpful because Google tries to like read what you're trying to say, read what's on your mind, and it can kind of mess up what you're looking for. So getting into one of the example questions, this is one that I did on NCL. So it was a OSINT, it was like a medium OSINT question on NCL. And the question was just, uh, you wanted to find the Stuxnet malware mitigation update 8. And for some reason, this document has been like wiped off the internet. If you look up update A, you'll only find update B and update C, but there's almost no mention of A except for this one website I found. It's been posted after NCL happened, but it does exist there. They're trying to make you pay for the documents, so I wouldn't recommend it because you can find it for free. Um, but yeah, getting into the question, kind of like my thought process and what you kind of would do in a situation like this. So the starting point of this CTF challenge would be, well, let me just look it up on Google. So I have the image here of what I did, what I searched up on Google, and what came up. Obviously, I got the CISA update B document, and it's pretty close, but obviously not what we're looking for. If we look into update B, we'll actually find a link to update C, but there's no mention of A anywhere. So what does that lead into? Well, it's probably an issue with, this document was there obviously, because if we have update B, update A must exist, right? So it's probably just been wiped off the internet. So the first thing I want to look up is just, let me look at the Wayback Machine and see, can I find this document on the Wayback Machine? Uh, but it's not there either. Like I looked up update A. This thing doesn't exist on it. It doesn't seem to exist on Wayback Machine, or at least in whatever I'm searching in right now. And it's a bit weird because well, with something as public and as detrimental as Stuxnet, like you should have enough documentation on this to for it to exist, but it's not. So like, what are we missing to finally complete this challenge? Well, it actually has to do with this collection search in Wayback Machine. This is something that you can change, and if you can find like what specifically you're looking for, you can actually find things that wouldn't normally have appeared. So in this case, if I change just looking at main and looking at websites, and I'm instead looking for .gov PDFs, because this is obviously a government PDF, I can find two versions of this Stuxnet update A capture, and this just gives us our answer that we're looking for. And it's kind of goes to show that like you may have the right tool, but you have to mess around with the settings, mess around with what you know of it. Because before this, I'd used Wayback Machine, but I never like messed with the search collection. And then it just like you need to always be open-minded and creative in your approaches to these CTF challenges. So, and with that, I'm going to be giving it off to Fast for their description of digital forensics.
Hey, hi guys, we're Fast. Thank you so much for Brian for that presentation. We'll be taking off here to talk more about digital forensics and specifically mobile forensics.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. So like Brad mentioned, we will transition into digital and mobile forensics. We'll give you a brief overview of what those are, first of all, what they might look like in a CTF setting, some of the tools you can leverage when you're exploring these domains, and then also some challenges you'll encounter within CTFs. So first things first, to put it simply, digital forensics involves the process of collecting, preserving, and analyzing digital evidence. And we'll go into that in the upcoming slides. But within CTFs, there is an emphasis on interpreting what we call digital artifacts. And that source can come from networks, computers, mobile devices, whatever you're given. What that might look like is extracting hidden or deleted information, analyzing suspicious data, recovering logs, and some common artifacts you'll probably encounter when you're completing those CTFs include encoded files, memory dumps, and system images. Some of the preferred skills you might want to have when you're going into these CTFs include a brief knowledge of memory architecture and file systems. Even if you have close to no experience within these domains, that shouldn't stop you from engaging in these CTFs. A lot of this is built by putting yourself out there and just trying new challenges, especially if you enter a team that already has experience. That's the best way you can learn. Within the cyber courses offered here at Cal Poly Pomona, ironically, most of them are just in theory. So you won't really get the chance to implement what you're learning unless you do something outside of school. And CTFs are a great way to do that. So as I keep talking about the preferred skills, don't be concerned if you have no experience. You also need a familiarity with forensics tools and scripting. Again, even if you have no experience, just engage in the CTFs. That's the best way to learn. Now I'll be talking about some of the key forensics tools within CTFs. The first one I'll be talking about is Wireshark, which is a network traffic analyzer for examining packet capture files. I put a picture up there on the right of what that might look like. So Wireshark can help with network traffic analysis, troubleshooting for anomalies. You can analyze the swapping of IPs between different sources, see if there are any like suspicious network handshakes going on. Another common tool is binwalk, which is used for analyzing binary files to extract embedded data, and then volatility, which is a framework for analyzing memory dumps.
Okay, so Daniel, who's helping with the slides, unfortunately couldn't be here today. So Brett, myself and Saul will be going over the slides that Daniel created. So now we're going to talk about mobile forensics. This is like a specific branch of digital forensics focused on analyzing data from mobile devices and retrieving, preserving data from either smartphones or tablets and these images. The general goals of mobile forensics include extracting SMS, call logs, GPS data, app data, recovering deleted files from mobile image devices, and anything of that sort. Challenges in mobile forensics include encrypted devices, locked screens, file system differences, such as Android versus iOS, what they share and what they're different, and also the rapid evolution of mobile operating systems and their different layouts.
Cool. Thank you, Brad. So yeah, mobile forensic tools and CTFs. So in some cases, whenever you're doing a CTF, you'll find files that are marked with a file extension, such as a TXT or a PNG file. In this case, go ahead and use a hex editor to go ahead and open that file. An example of a hex editor would be hex.it. I also went ahead he went ahead and linked it up there, if you guys are curious. So with the file open in a hex editor, look at the first few bits and find the text on the right that corresponds to those bits, as seen on the screen. And finally, you can find that information to find the correct program to inspect it. So depending on the file, you might have to use Paint or Photos based on what you want to further inspect, if that kind of makes sense.
All right, so with the general questions you might get with either both mobile forensics, but also forensics in general, you're going to be trying to answer questions related to the data on these devices. So your goal is to go through these images, use forensic tools, and try and look for different pieces of data that CTF might be asking for. So one of the better sources of information comes from the database on these phones. The files could include .db, .sqlite, .sqlite-db, and anything relatively, if it has DB in it, you could assume it is a database. So trying to open them on applications like DB browser or SQLite browser, you could check out the database's data by using the browse data tab and clicking on that. And I think I didn't put these pictures up, but on the right, you could see an example of what that might look like. So in the view, you could go through the different tables that the database might include, and you'll be able to find different informations that might not be visible through other files.
So whenever you encounter a plist file, essentially what that is you're looking at a preferences list file that might be on the mobile device. So these files usually contain stored settings for applications or the phone itself. And you can open these files in a program such as xplist, which I also went ahead and, or he went ahead and linked up there. Whenever you open the plist file on xplist, you'll go ahead and be met with a tree-like structure. You can essentially look through these settings and find more information about those settings. If that kind of makes sense.
Some common forensics challenges you might run into might involve network traffic analysis. Within these challenges, you'll probably be asked to analyze a packet capture for suspicious activity or data extraction. There are a lot of ways this could play out, but one of them could be asking you to identify a secret communication channel. You might also be asked to do some file recovery, so just recover altered files. And one way to do that is to use sleuthkit to find remnants of deleted files or hidden partitions. There may also be challenges involving memory dump analysis, where you have to investigate for running processes, malware, or encryption keys. And if you want to expose yourself to these challenges, you can just look up on Google common forensics challenges, and there are an abundance of resources for you to practice before your first CTF or competition.
Just to go over an example of a mobile forensics challenge, we have an example here. What is the phone's model code? So the model code is generally a 5-digit number based on the phone. I think it's similar to like a, actually, never mind. So for the explanation of this question, participants should utilize whatever information they have, either in any JSON files on the device or even information online. So similarly to OSINT, you could look up these any data that you get on the phone, you could search it up to get more details or data about it. In this case, you could use an online database like snd.info, which will give additional information not directly included with the phone, such as the model code. All right, so did Dan also do this? Okay, let's talk about it. So some more specific tools and resources you could see here. We have decode.fr to identify the type of cipher and the decode cipher. We have this GitHub link GCHQ CyberShep, which decodes multiple layered ciphers. So I don't know if it was mentioned before, but for the different ciphers as well, you could have a cipher on top of a cipher and you could just kind of keep going. So you may be on the right track, but that doesn't mean you'll immediately get like the right string and that you need for the answer. You also have John the Ripper, which is a password cracking tool. Wireshark, as mentioned by Hasti, for packet tracing and network log analysis. Inspect F12 for web page analysis, and Linux other tools on the Linux client. Okay.
All right, so kind of concluding the informational part of the presentation, just to provide you guys with some next steps on what you can do if you're interested in CTFs, what kind of the step progression is going to be. We'll be having our FastX CTF. I'll give you guys the link in like the next slide, but it's supposed to be beginner friendly. I can't vouch for how beginner friendly it is, but I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you guys have any questions about it, please reach out. Make sure to like always kind of take that new approach, take that new aspect. And we'll be here to help because that's kind of the goal of this whole thing is for you guys to learn about it. And then we'll also be kind of going over the solutions to all of these challenges, especially the ones that you guys struggle with on Friday. So make sure to show up on Friday if you guys have any questions, if you like really need that solution, and it'll kind of help put you on the right track. Apart from our CTF, I've listed some of the beginner CTFs here. There's Pico CTF. It's kind of always referred to, kind of the most well-known. Beginner one, it's completely free, and it does scale up in difficulty, but they have a good amount of like intro level questions that can kind of get you into the CTF environment and get started in it. I'd also really recommend NCL because it is genuinely like one of the best like beginner focused CTF challenges. It really helps like it's kind of like compared to a lot of the ones I'll mention later with CTF time, it definitely is an easier thing to grasp on. So if you can sign up, it'd be great if you're interested. And lastly, I've also listed the crypto hack here because they offer lessons on the cryptography as well as challenges. So it's just a great learning experience, although it's specific to cryptography. And additionally, like I mentioned, there's CTF time. That's just it's not beginner anymore. It's pretty much just really competitive CTFs. There's prizes, and they're almost like they're pretty dominant with like if you're interested in being competitive, you'll have to join a team and kind of like start to specialize into whatever field you're interested in. But you can do these solo if you're not interested in like placing first place, which is, I mean, it's kind of you'd have to join like a really competitive team and be really knowledgeable, but just kind of participate in these and like participate in challenges, get answers that on like questions you struggle with write-ups afterwards. It's going to really expedite that growth process and how much you know that will just continue to carry on as you do more and more CTFs. And the only thing I can say as well is just don't give up after your first CTF. Most of this knowledge comes from doing multiple of them over and over and kind of getting help, getting solution, like figuring out these challenges both on yourself and also if you can't do it, like getting the solution that kind of changes the way you think about and approach these challenges in the future. And so that leads us into the hands-on. If you aren't connected to the Swift VPN, you'll have to do that first. We have it on our link tree and it's under the Camino guide. It'll just be the first step. No? Okay, my bad. Don't connect to our VPN. Just go to the website. And if you guys need any help with specific challenges, I'd reach out to JSP on Discord for cryptography and OSINT because he made most of those, and as well as Caplock on Discord for the forensics and network traffic. And I'll come back to this slide, but to kind of quickly mention our prizes, we'll be having the first place prize as this Anchor portable charger, and then 2 Pokemon packs for second place and 1 Pokemon pack for third place. So, yeah, make sure to come back on Friday. We'll be announcing it at the end of the workshop, or not the end of the workshop, but before we start answering the CTF questions and giving you guys the walkthroughs. We'll be announcing prizes probably around halfway through. And
Yeah, so we're just gonna do a quick little plug here. So we'll be talking just more about FAST, and I think Swift will have their chance to talk about their socials and things as well. But just real quick, this is sort of our semester poster. We have the 3 QR codes at the bottom are QR codes for Discord, Linktree, and Instagram. Generally for this semester, we're trying to go with like a new kind of plan to have a lot more programs available for students. So if you're interested in leadership or educational opportunities, opportunities for beginner to intermediate students to participate in programs for self-growth, independence, and consistency, and to also complete projects and competitions to put on your resume. We have a lot of those activities at FAST. So if you're interested, go ahead and join the links below. We also have past meeting recordings on our Discord where you can learn more about the different programs we had. Just for a quick example, we have 3 research teams: the malware team, the cyber research team, and the digital forensics team. We also have some new red-blue teams who are dedicated towards working toward the NCL competitions that you guys heard, as well as NCAE. So on top of that, we also have a study group program for certificates. So if you're interested in either getting a certificate or you're looking for a certificate to earn, we also have a program dedicated to that. So we have a lot more information that we talked about in our last previous Tuesday meeting, which the recording is on the Discord. So if you're interested in anything I've said so far or want to learn more, could go ahead and find more information there.
yeah, and as a quick mention, so for Swift, we have our socials linked up here. Mainly, we're going to communicate on Discord, but our link tree is going to have kind of all the slides, and we have our past recordings on YouTube. Kind of like to mention our programs quickly again, we do a lot of mainly competitions. We'll be having CyberForce that's upcoming, and Search and Destroy. Make sure if you're interested, sign up for those and reach out if you have any questions regarding that. And I think we can just go back. Okay. So yeah, just visit the link, and I hope you guys have fun with it. If you feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But I think that's the end of the workshop or the meeting. Did I put it in here?